Hello and welcome. In this tutorial, I will create a very low poly model of the shoe by using the box modeling method. I will show you how to plan ahead by using the grease pencil. I introduce the Mirror Modifier to save some modeling work. And I show you how to avoid some very basic problems in your mesh. First, I add another grease pencil layer. Rename it to Annotations. And give it a greenish color. This new layer gets automatically active. You can activate the grease pencil in the tool shelf. Please remember that we have already enabled the sketching session in the previous tutorial, but there is another and even faster way to enable the grease pencil by using keyboard shortcuts. But we must first disable the sketching session before this will start to work. Now, whenever you want to draw one or more strokes, simply press and hold down D. And start drawing by pressing the left mouse button and drag the mouse. You can also erase existing strokes by using the right mouse button. So, now let us start to create the mesh. But hold on again. You must be aware of some basic properties of meshes. First, any mesh in the world can always be reduced to a set of triangles, and also most 3D tools only support triangles and quadruples, also named trees and quads. And finally, a quad is always made out of two trees. So we can state that the basic element of 3D is the triangle. And you better remember this from now on, all days and nights, for the rest of your life. You also may have been told that you never should use triangles on your meshes, and that you should always use quads. Well, this is wrong. The rule is actually slightly different. And it says, avoid triangles where possible, but use them where it makes sense. In fact, working with quads gives us some benefits, especially when it comes to animation and texturing. And during the modeling stage, a quad-based mesh can be subdivided much easier. So there are indeed a lot of good reasons why we should stick with quads. But I will show you later when I am going to optimize the mesh that triangles are very helpful for reducing the mesh size without reducing the mesh quality significantly. Okay, let us check the sketch now. And let us first look at the connection between the shoe base and the heel. We have to add one more edge to the shoe model. Otherwise we will be forced to use triangles here, and you will see in a minute how this additional edge will help us. Then check the heel. It is probably a good idea to create a new horizontal edge loop here. This helps us later to get a smooth curvature on the backside. The front part of the shoe may give us some trouble. Right now we do not exactly see what is going on here. But I am sure that we want our face flow follow smoothly along the sides, so I am almost sure that we will split up the mesh here, and we will create the top side of the shoe front by using some extra faces. Finally, look at the sole. We see that we need some extra bending. Here. And here. Now, it is important to remember that faces are always plain and can never be bended. Hence we need to add some more edges. So, by just looking at this primitive sketch, we can already decide how our mesh will be constructed. So let us go ahead now and create a new cube. Scale it down by a factor of 100, and move it to the bottom of the heel. But where is the sketch now? Well, it is attached to the foot model. We have just created a new object, and that object gets its own grease pencil layers. But fortunately we can attach multiple objects to the same layer. We simply can select the layer from the Properties window. And now, finally we can make the model. I reduce the opacity of the grease pencil. Then I can see better where I place my faces. I also unselect vertex clipping. Then I can better select vertices from the back side of my model. It sometimes helps to enable local mode, where only the currently selected objects are visible. From now on, I use extrude to construct the mesh. I take care to always extrude from complete faces. This ensures that I only get quads. At the shoe tip, I make one last extrude, but I collapse all extruded edges to one single location. By doing this, I added duplicate vertices, and I have to remove them again later. We also see that we have created pairs of triangles here, but triangle pairs can usually be transformed into quadruples without problems. The keyboard shortcut for this is LJ. We finally scale the shoe body by a factor of about 5 along the y-axis. And then our primary box model is finished. In the next step we can avoid some extra work. For example, the shoe is almost symmetric along the y-axis, hence it makes a lot of sense to use a mirror modifier here. So let us now attach a mirror modifier to our object. You can do that from the Properties window. You see that the mirrored part gets rendered in a gray color. The modifier mirrors along the x-axis by default. Let us change the mirrored axis according to our needs. Okay, this was a bad idea, and the mirrored part has disappeared. Well, you must know that the mirrored plane always goes straight through the object origin, and this currently is located at the object center, hence the modifier mirrors the object into itself. We only need to go to Edit Mode, and move all vertices to the side. You see that the mirrored part now moves away into the opposite direction. But now we have two shoes. Well, we only want one single mesh, and this is where clipping comes into play. So, let us enable clipping now. Then move the selected vertices back towards the gray mirrored part. As soon as both parts touch, the vertices do not move further. Clipping creates an invisible barrier for vertices along the mirror plane. Let us move the remaining vertices a bit further, until the mirrored heel merges with the original part. The base model is now almost done, but please take a closer look into the inner part of the shoe. There we now see a few edges which we really do not want. These edges will give us a lot of headache later. We better remove them now, as they are completely useless for our ongoing work. Let us disable the visibility of the modifier, and then select all bad edges and remove them. You will end up with a half and hollow shoe. When you enable the visibility of the modifier again, then you see that all is good now. The mirrored vertices can be made visible. You only need to apply the modifier during edit mode. This can also be configured in the modifier properties window. Note that this option is only available if the modifier is enabled in edit mode. Now we only need to rearrange the vertices a bit, and we end up with a rock-solid construction of a shoe model. Okay, there is some more work to be done until the shoe looks smooth and bright. And using modifiers is generally a very good idea, so we will use a few more of them in the next part of the tutorial. They will show you how to make this shoe look less blocky and how to create the inner sides without much extra work. Until then, have a nice day.